Out of the waves, parts of an ancient city are feeling the air for the first time in 2,000 years. You're watching workers lift them from the Mediterranean. The excavations took place last week near the city of Alexandria on the northern coast of Egypt. And while unearthing treasures from the past is pretty common in this part of the world, it's not every day historians identify buildings and relics that have been lying quietly under the waves for millennia. They're not sure exactly what city this is. They think it might be what remains of Canopus, a community that flourished starting around the 3rd century BC. Statues, though many are missing parts, represent royals and sphinxes. A portion of a Roman official's statue was also found, along with an ancient ship and harbor crane. It's a very modern one that's helping raise these remnants of history hundreds of years after they sank into the sea following earthquakes and changes in water levels. And some won't be brought up. An Egyptian antiquities official says they'll stay where they were found as part of the country's sunken heritage. Thank you for taking the time to watch news from around the world from A to Z. I'm Azuz, fighting a bit of the flu today, but grateful you won't catch it from me. Got a few more international events to cover as the week begins. They're part of our new segment, Around the World in 80 Seconds. Despite recent meetings between their leaders and U.S. President Donald Trump, who's been pushing for an end to the war between Russia and Ukraine, those two nations continued to fight by land and air over the weekend, with Ukraine marking its Independence Day Sunday and receiving messages of congratulations from numerous world leaders. There was reportedly an exchange of prisoners, with Ukraine and Russia each releasing 146 people. But exactly 3.5 years after Russia fully invaded, their war raged on. In southeastern Asia, much of eastern Vietnam was bracing for the impact of a major storm last night. Typhoon Kajiki was expected to make landfall early Monday, leading officials to evacuate more than 500,000 people. The storm was expected to bring wind speeds of more than 120 miles per hour, the equivalent of a strong Category 3 hurricane. And the storm's surge, the rise in seawater levels blown ashore by a typhoon, was predicted to be between 6 and 13 feet, according to the BBC. Out in the Pacific, Hawaii's Mount Kilauea put on a show over the weekend, firing lava 100 feet into the air. It's been doing this a lot lately. This is reportedly Kilauea's 31st lava flow show since December. A Park Service volunteer told the Associated Press that these eruptions sound like a loud jet engine and that their heat can be felt a mile away. This volcano is one of the most active on the planet.
World of knowledge. Henry Merriam, an officer in the U.S. Army, is widely credited with inventing the first modern what? Backpack, mess kit, duct tape, hiking boot. In the late 1870s, Merriam received a patent for a type of knapsack. It wasn't comfortable or popular, but is considered to be the first modern backpack.
News you could use. Turns out there's a healthier way to wear a backpack than I did as a freshman, carrying all my books in it because my locker was nowhere near my classes and using only one strap because I thought that looked cooler. That had an impact, and not just in broken straps.
There are binders, notebooks, paper, pencils, and all the things students stuff into their backpacks. It can make the school day feel a little heavy.
Backpacks, as long as they're used properly, they should never cause any sort of pain or discomfort.
Dr. Caroline Weingart with Nationwide Children's Hospital says when backpacks aren't properly used, it can lead to neck, shoulder, or back pain. The first way to prevent it is by choosing the right backpack. She says it should have 2 wide padded shoulder straps and a padded back. A waist or chest strap can also help with heavy loads. Next, pack it properly.
The heaviest items should be in the backpack, packed closest to the back, and then the more lighter items towards the outside of the back. That helps the weight to be distributed in a way that it's easiest to carry.
Weingart says the backpack should never be heavier than 15% of the child's body weight. And finally,
using both straps and not just one.
I'm Mandy Gaither.
On this date in world history.
When you use a telescope to gaze into space, you're using a device that was first presented more than 400 years ago. Galileo showed off his telescope to Venetians on this date in 1609. On August 25, 1916, America's National Park Service was created. President Woodrow Wilson signed the act, and at the time, the service was responsible for 35 monuments and national parks across America. Pioneer and aviator Amelia Earhart touched down in Newark, New Jersey on this date in 1932. It was a very significant landing. Earhart had just completed the first solo transcontinental flight by a woman. It took just over 19 hours to fly coast to coast across America. And on August 25, 1944, the Allies liberated the French capital of Paris from Germany. The Nazi occupation had lasted more than 4 years, and before he surrendered, the German general in charge refused Adolf Hitler's orders to destroy the French city's bridges and significant buildings.
This might look like an ordinary old wood desk, but there's more to it than meets the eye. It's the Resolute Desk, or Hayes Desk, and it's been used by every US president for the last 50 years. The Resolute Desk hasn't always been a desk. It started out as a British ship, the HMS Resolute. Outfitted to brave the icy waters of the Arctic, the Resolute and other ships set off in 1852 to rescue a pair of missing ships, the HMS Erebus and the HMS Terror. But 1 year into its journey, the Resolute became stuck in the Arctic ice and was abandoned. American whalers found the ship months later, some 1,300 miles from where the British left it. Tensions were high between the United States and England at the time, so the US decided to refurbish the HMS Resolute and return it to England as a diplomatic gesture of goodwill to break the ice between the two nations. The gesture worked, and the British used the ship for another 23 years until it was decommissioned in 1880. Then Queen Victoria used the wood from the ship for her own goodwill gesture, crafting a desk and gifting it to the White House during Rutherford B. Hayes' presidency. The piece of furniture remained at the White House, moving room to room throughout presidencies before it was discovered by Jackie Kennedy in 1960 in the White House basement. And the First Lady made it John F. Kennedy's presidential desk. But the Resolute became famous when the Kennedy's son, John Jr., was photographed playing under the desk while Dad worked. After Kennedy was assassinated, it was loaned to the Smithsonian as a part of a traveling exhibit and stayed there until Jimmy Carter requested it be placed in the Oval Office when he was elected in 1976. Over the years, the Resolute Desk has gone through a variety of changes and additions. JFK raised it by a couple inches, and George W. Bush installed a button to call aides that Donald Trump presses whenever he wants a Diet Coke. And in a relatively new White House tradition, an outgoing president will leave a letter for the incoming US president in a Resolute desk drawer.
Next, 3 schools we're announcing this season have coasts on 3 different oceans, starting with the Gulf Coast state of Louisiana. That's where the Tigers are prowling around Neville High School. Hello to Coach Vandenberg's class in Monroe. With both a Gulf and an Atlantic coast, we're spotlighting the Sunshine State of Florida next. Mrs. Little's class, we see you at the Center Academy in Palm Harbor. And surrounded by the Pacific is the Aloha State. It's great to see Mrs. Saito's class at Punahou School watching. Thank you for checking out our show from Honolulu, Hawaii. We're going to leave you with a contest from Hong Kong that was truly for the birds. Told you. And these determined chirpers weren't just crowing from their seats. They took to the stage, some in costume, to tweet their finest. Some definitely sounded more bird-like than human-like, and the crowd went mild. But this event wasn't just about sounding feathered. It was organized by the Hong Kong Birdwatching Society to raise awareness and support for Hong Kong's native species. Fans loved that they were so wavy into it. Critics thought they were cuckoo and should get plover it. But the fact is, more than cockatoos showed up to coalesce around a sort of owlet for ornithologists and bird watchers alike. They all perched to scoff out a grebe cause that tries to keep any species from its swan song. That's the world from A to Z. I'm Carl Azuz, and it means the world to me to have you watching.